Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the 7-Minute Takeover, where we chat all things acquisitions. We're your hosts. I'm Liz Prey.
I'm Eamon Gamble.
Hi, everybody. Today we're talking about a mythbuster. And today's topic is
The myth that a seller is going to completely disappear the moment the share purchase agreement is signed.
day one, you take over a business and all of a sudden there's no seller trading. So this myth sort of exists because there's just fear. Naturally, as a buyer, you're making a substantial investment, potentially a career change, and jumping into a business day one with employees, and you just have fear that the business owner isn't going to provide the depth of support that you need. It's a natural fear that a lot of buyers have.
Yeah, I think that also, there's always the fear that there's some risk that wasn't uncovered in due diligence. And there's the fear that the seller knew about this risk and, can't wait to get out of Dodge to avoid accountability for that risk.
We're hiding something now. Now, cat could be out of the bag, so they're just going to get out of Dodge. So, in reality, most business owners don't want to see the business fail or be disrupted in any way. They want a smooth transition. They want their employees to have the best experience, and they really want the business to succeed beyond their ownership. It's a legacy piece to them. So, for the most part, business owners do want to do what they can to succeed. But there are a couple of different types of sellers and how they participate post acquisition. So
Yeah, I think what everybody's hoping for is what we'll put in the first category, which is kind of, we'll call it the helpful seller. Most business acquisitions come with a 6 to 12 week transition period where the seller's in there full time. They're doing the high value activities of facilitating key client intros to new management, running new management through any processes or any staff procedures that weren't kind of outlined during the due diligence process. Some may stick around for even more than 12 weeks. We've seen it where a seller agreed to a year-long transition agreement as part of the compensation paid. So that's kind of what you're hoping.
And we do see situations where their trailing transition period, whether short or long, it might be that they're not compensated at all, or it may be a situation where there's a subcontractor agreement that's entered into, and they are compensated in addition to the purchase price if the transition period is going to be any longer than a couple of months typically. So that's fairly common. The next type of support is, they're available, but not really as in-depthly as we just described. So it might be that there's, fantastic processes in place. There's a really strong management team. The business owner had already removed themselves from much of the day-to-day operations, and they're willing and available to support, but they find that they're just not needed. So usually, there's a period of time where they're more available in the beginning and it starts to taper off. But making sure that the buyer has comfort in the enough time in the first amount of time that they are providing. And then usually, again, like I said, it's not needed. It's kind of dialed back.
Yeah, sometimes you as a buyer may not want them there every day if they're not actually doing anything. So that type is okay too. Like you said, there's good staff and processes in place. And then the third type would be, the one that just actually does kind of want to leave. There could be many reasons for this. Could be an illness in the family or a personal issue that is drawing them away from the business that they'd rather focus on than a successful transition of you as a buyer.
We've also seen situations where there is partnership dispute, and so new buyers coming in to take over, and because of that existing dispute, the second owner, departs immediately, if not already departed. So usually for an immediate departure, there's a significant reason for that departure, or there's also, this is where it comes to the risks, and the risk mitigation is maybe it hasn't been properly communicated with the purchaser about the expectations. And so one of the recommendations is that it's very well documented about what this transition plan will look like.
Yeah. And so it's a great point. You don't know which type of seller you're going to get on your specific transaction. And so there's a few ways that you can protect yourself from the situation where a seller does want to depart quickly following the transaction. So the first, like you mentioned, is just a really well detailed transition agreement. That's going to be a contractual obligation that they have to fulfill. And if they don't, there are remedies and recourses available that your local lawyer can probably tell you more about than I can. So that's the most common way to protect yourself as a buyer.
And there could be some monetary pieces that are tied to it. So, for example, for a holdback to be released, or for an earnout to be earned, that the exiting owner has participation in that transition agreement. So that's where it can be contractually tied to compensation as well, or it can be incentivized as well. So, for example, if the exiting owner is tied to post acquisition and compensation through an earnout, they may want to stay on and do, some of that business development activity because they are tied to an earnout. So they're incentivized to stay and participate for even longer in some situations.
Yeah, alignment's really important. And, if you know that it's a situation where somebody's just got to leave immediately and there will be no transition period, maybe it's just that there is slightly less cash on flows and more contingent or
It
deferred
can affect the
payments.
purchase price if there's no offering for that transition. If it needs to be a speedy exit and you're willing to take that risk on as a buyer, it can affect purchase price.
Totally. You may buy IKEA furniture without instructions, but buying a company without it may change the value.
Definitely.
So I guess when a seller does actually disappear, what should a buyer do?
I would say definitely make sure that there's some contractual impact for them. So be clear in those expectations up front. Is that this is the expectation of you as a purchaser to the seller, and hopefully that was chatted out. That first 100 days or that transition plan, like bring that into the due diligence period that you were pre-planning for that, and that also that ties into the employee communication as well, which we'll cover in another topic.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this myth was mostly busted. It is fairly rare for a seller to completely disappear on day one.
But take precautions, do your due diligence, and get it in writing.
Thanks, everyone. Good discussion.
Take care. Talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, please be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media, and check out our website at villagewealth.com.